So we are learning new details this morning about the two separate grand juries looking into former President Donald Trump's handling of classified documents after leaving the White House. First, NBC News has learned roughly 24 Secret Service agents have been subpoenaed or have appeared before the federal grand jury in Washington, D.C. That's according to two sources familiar with the matter. They say the testimony took place in the past few months, meaning not recently, as the grand jury has been on hiatus. At the same time, the New York Times reports a previously unknown federal grand jury in Miami, Florida, started hearing testimony in the classified documents case last month. And only a handful of witnesses have testified or are scheduled to appear. That includes one witness set to testify today. The paper cites people familiar with the grand jury's workings on this. The Times also reports that the existence of two grand juries suggests prosecutors are considering bringing charges in both Washington and Florida. Big news, Willie.
Yeah, so while all that's going on, Donald Trump's former White House chief of staff reportedly has testified before a grand jury hearing evidence in the Justice Department's investigations of the former president. Sources tell ABC News Mark Meadows answered questions in both the probe into Trump's handling of classified documents and the investigation into his alleged efforts to stay in power after losing the 2020 election. Meadows was with Trump in the weeks leading up to the January 6th insurrection and stayed with the administration right to the end. Last year, he turned over hundreds of text messages to the House committee investigating the attack before he decided to stop cooperating. According to the New York Times, which broke the story, Meadows also was one of Trump's representatives to the National Archives. That would give him insight into efforts by the archives to retrieve boxes of material the former president took with him when he left office. In a statement to the Times, an attorney for Meadows would not confirm his client had testified, but did say, quote, Mr. Meadows has maintained a commitment to tell the truth where he has a legal obligation to do so. Chuck Rosenberg, not surprising that Mark Meadows offered testimony or that he was asked to come testify, given that he was at the middle of everything as the chief of staff to Donald Trump. Given what we know about how close he was to the January 6th attack, to the attempt to overturn the 2020 election, everything we heard in that House committee from people who worked around him, what do you expect that he was asked yesterday?
Sure. Not surprising at all, Willie, that prosecutors would want to speak with Mr. Meadows. Primarily because he had proximity to the president. He was with him at the end of Mr. Trump's term in office. He knew what he was thinking. They obviously must have discussed things going on around the White House, like the election and its outcome. Probably knows a good bit about the classified information. At the very least, how Mr. Trump routinely would treat classified information. And I imagine prosecutors would also want to know whether there was any standing declassification order, for instance, something that Mr. Trump has hinted at over the last several months. So the most important witnesses in cases like this are people with proximity to the subjects of the investigation. And that's precisely what Mark Meadows is, somebody with proximity to Mr. Trump.
Joe.
Yeah, Chuck, what do you make of the Miami grand jury?
You know, Joe, this reminds me of a science experiment that we did in grade school where you would get something in a box and shake it and turn it upside down and try and figure out, without having the ability to open it, what was inside of it. So it could mean a couple of things. It could mean that there are parallel investigations, other charges, other defendants against whom charges might be brought. It could mean that as the government has learned more about this particular investigation, they believe venue might be more appropriate in Florida than in Washington, D.C., and the case is sort of moving on a different track and in that direction. It could mean, although I think this is less likely, that it was done for the convenience of a witness or two who weren't able to travel to Washington, D.C. That happens occasionally, but that's rare. So it's one of those things, most likely, but it's that black box from grade school, Joe, and it's hard to know for sure.
So, Elizabeth, Mark Meadows, we learned from the January 6 hearings from following the news, had a lot of information to share. I guess the question is, how do we know if he shared it? Was he perhaps compelled to share it? But he had access to a lot of the information that could potentially damage the former president.
Yes, and he shared all of those documents earlier in the very beginning of the investigation. So much of what he knows was in the documents he already gave to investigators. But I think what's interesting about this grand jury in Florida and what looks to be wrapping up the grand jury in Washington is that we're fairly close to a decision by the prosecutor to potentially charge former President Trump. And we're hearing that increasingly, that this is perhaps I don't know, weeks away. Of course, things take a lot longer, as Chuck knows, than people usually think. But it looks like the investigation is wrapping up. And so, and plus, they need to move quickly because there's the Georgia investigation. And then, of course, there's the January 6th investigation. So as we have talked about, former president is potentially facing 3 more indictments, 2 more indictments, even before he.
Wow. Joe.
For the election.
I mean, it's lining up like traffic over LaGuardia in the summer. I mean, yeah, they need to start clearing some of these indictments out. There are quite a few more ahead of us. And